Hey everybody, welcome to another. It's another week. I don't know where you are while you're listening to this, but it's been kind of chilly and rainy in Kansas City, and I'm for it. I'm not gonna lie, I'm all about it. Hey, welcome to another. Yeah, it's wonderful. Welcome to another episode of Sideways in Time. As usual, I am your host, Lucha Chris, or as this guy likes to say it, Luch. And speaking of that guy, the always hilarious, the always sitting while podcasting in sunglasses, Patriot Pat, everybody. Say hello to Patriot Pat.
Hey, everybody. How y'all doing? Okay.
What's going on, Patrick?
It's been a fun week. We had the Koloff interview last week. That was awesome. Such a sweet dude. That was a lot of fun. But we're back to normal. It's just you and I now. And getting things back to getting back to normal. I do have a joke of the week. So
let's hear it.
One thing you might not know about me, I'm a huge nerd. I'm a huge geek. I have my Enter the Haggis tattoo right there. They're a Scottish band. I have my space. Let me see if I can get it. I have my Space Invader tattoo there. I even have a Captain America tattoo right there. Show off my patriotism. Yeah. I also I have a Hulk tattoo, but due to we'd have to go NSFW if I were to show that to you. So and also right now it's only Bruce Banner. Don't make me horny. You won't like me when I'm horny. Just walk around smacking my dick everywhere, going Hulk smash, Hulk smash.
Just lifting and throwing cars with it.
Yeah. Little purple sweatpants torn up at the base.
Fighting Iron Man with it. Hell yeah. Hey, mine's more like Squirrel Girl. So anyway, we're gonna move on to this week in wrestling history. In 1998, on October 12th, 1998, Ken Shamrock beats X-Pac in a tournament final for the WWF Intercontinental title at the Nassau Coliseum in Long Island. The belt had been vacated when the champion Triple H suffered a knee injury. Here's the results of the tournament. In the first round, it was Ken Shamrock defeating Steve Blackman. Val Venus defeated Mark Marrow. X-Pac defeated Jeff Jarrett. Mankind defeated Mark Henry, and this match saw the debut of Mr. Sacco and the Manimal Claw. The semifinals was Ken Shamrock defeating Val Venus and X-Pac defeating Mankind, which I thought it was kind of crazy, and then in the finals, obviously, it was Ken Shamrock defeating X-Pac. 1998 was a lot of fun, in my opinion. One of your favorites, Steve Blackman, being involved in this, but being defeated in the first round by Ken Shamrock. Obviously, they had a decent little feud, and probably the only, other than Matt Riddle, one of the only UFC style round cage match things involved in WWE that actually worked. I think there's only ever been two. It was Steve Blackman and Ken Shamrock, and then that one from NXT with Riddle and who was that? Thatcher. Yeah.
Thatcher.
Awesome. Both of those were fun.
Yeah. They brought that back, that Ciampa and Thatcher too, but the Riddle Thatcher in the cage was
nothing against the Ciampa one, but Riddle belongs in that environment, in my opinion. So hey, we're gonna dive right in today, guys. We've got a great show. I'm sure I said that in the intro, but we're gonna go straight into our curtain jerker, which today is going to be one of our new segments that we did last week. It's going to be the hot take segment.
This one, I'm excited about this.
I am too. And so this week, Patrick shot this idea up, and I am all for it. So I'm going to go ahead and let Patrick lead us into this one. Go ahead, Pat. What's our hot take this week?
All right. The hot take of this week is that Matt Cardona is the best thing in professional wrestling right now. He is so fucking entertaining. He has got the Twitter game down, and the dude is a king of the internets. I mean, back in the day, the Zack Ryder, the
Z True
Long
Hollywood
Island,
Story.
yeah, Z True, that's what it was, or Z
Long
True
Island
Long
Story.
Island Story.
Yeah.
He was the internet champion. He gets, he does this thing. He's middling around, in WWE. They throw him a bone and give him the IC title for 24 hours. Very
And what was
kind of them.
one of the biggest pops in WrestleMania for years up to that point.
Yeah. And I would say probably, one of the top 5 like best mid-card pops.
I agree.
It's not going to compare with like the Hardys returning or, anything like that. But just for, your kind of just regular worker to get that huge pop. But anyway, so, he gets released, and you see a lot of these guys that get released. What do? They either completely bag on WWE, which is kind of stupid because they were paying you really well for a long time. And, I don't know. I don't think that's too classy. So you could have just gone and bagged on that, or the other thing they do is like what Daniel Bryan Danielson does, and he's talking, and other guys to talk about how much they love their time in WWE.
Right.
Or you could do what Matt Cardona did. That motherfucker just completely embodied everything about WWE and just started fucking not only trolling the whole internet, but trolling all the indies. And he has gotten more eyes on people that, okay, like me. I am your kind of average fan. You just started getting into the indie stuff.
Right.
But it was mostly WWE, WCW, TNA, just now AEW. I was watching the big. Now I'm following his Twitter. He's gotten GCW over. One dude, I don't give a shit what anybody says. That one motherfucking WWE release got a whole wrestling company over. He's getting, he got Nick Gage over. Nick Gage appeared on frickin' AEW because of that. There's no doubt in my mind it was because of that. He's getting Effie over. I was seeing Effie on my Twitter feed. I'm like, who the fuck is this guy? And he started that whole feud, which was on Twitter was fucking hysterical.
Yeah.
One of the funniest things, just how they were retweeting and quoting and replying. And it was brilliant. So yeah, fucking Matt Cardona, hands down, is single-handedly changing the fucking wrestling world outside of WWE.
Yeah, this is another one that we agree on pretty well. Like we've I think we said it in one of the earlier episodes too, that just, when mentioning Matt Cardona, how wonderful this, whatever this is, this kind of revamp that he's doing. Because look, like you said, he wasn't a massive star in the WWE, but he was as far as WWE fans go, he was a bit of a household name regardless.
Mm-hmm.
He'd been there for years. He was one of the original, not even one of the original. He was one of the 2 edge heads with him and and damn it, now I can't, Brian Myers. And I'm a massive fan, and I have been since the get-go. I've seen every single episode. They've got, between the 2 of them, they've got their online series, the Major Wrestling Figure Podcast and the Major Wrestling Figure Network, where they go and they shop around in all the different cities they're touring in and shop for action figures, mostly wrestling figures. They're super entertaining on that. Obviously, Matt Cardona has been, like you said, with the internet thing, and that all, it's so strange how this is working out. And I'm sure there's more than us paying attention to this, but like, so the Effie thing, that just the feud that just went through here recently, where Matt Cardona, I'm actually looking at the results right now, because Matt Cardona won his Intercontinental Championship Internet Championship back with the help of Chelsea Green. But that belt has been around since the Z True Long Island True Stories thing.
So he fucking made it.
Yeah, I mean, and he's known for making belts too. I mean, obviously with the GCW title, when he won that, he had a custom belt made. He's
a spinner.
if I had the funding that he has, I'd be getting custom belts made every 5 minutes. But my point being that, like, first of all, he brought that in, and that's doing nothing but make people go back and maybe possibly watch his YouTube stuff from back in the day so that they're aware of the history of the internet championship and what that's even all about, which is kind of a joke. But as you said, man, you know, he, after leaving WWE, he floated around, did what he could do, but then ultimately ended up on Impact for a couple nights. It was a quick cup of coffee and Impact. He's good friends with Cody, so that was
No,
kind of that.
At AEW, he
What did
showed
I
up on
say?
AEW. You said Impact.
Oh, my bad. So yeah, so he ended up on AEW. Then shortly thereafter, ended up on Impact, where he's had some on and off against feuds with his buddy Brian Myers and a few other people. But I don't. It's weird. So I figured that either one of those two companies would have put him on a new level, and it didn't really happen. He kind of, and nothing against anything that either company did or that he did. He didn't do anything wrong, and they didn't really necessarily underbook him. It was just, where do we put Matt Cardona? He wasn't getting a lot of traction that way. And the funny thing is, never in a million years would I ever think, before all this, Matt Cardona equaled indie guy, because he's so
Exactly.
WWE. He's so, and even after leaving WWE, he is fully WWE. And that is what helps, because he's a smart guy, and he understands that he can use that, kind of like the Outsiders did when they went to WCW, which we'll talk about later, obviously, spoiler alert. But yeah, but so he's kind of doing that Outsiders thing where obviously everybody knows he was fired from WWE, but in character as Matt Cardona in these companies, in these indie shows, he's the WWE guy in the indies. It's weird, but it's working so well. So in saying so, I want to say that the only thing I'd rebuttal against you saying that he got GCW over, although he's brought it to a completely new level. Nick Gage and quite a few of the other guys on that roster have really made GCW a massive name before that happened. But because of Matt Cardona, it put eyes that were not previously on GCW in GCW. I will also agree that Nick Gage got a big, boost because of that feud. That feud, and we talked about this before, was genius.
Yes, that whole thing.
Cardona shows up in Jersey following Nick Gage's match with Jimmy Floyd for the World Championship. Ended in a no contest. A hooded figure walked in. He's doing the whole Moxley thing, so everybody assumes it's Moxley, which wouldn't have been a stretch considering Moxley's been in and out of GCW for years, even currently. Gives him the underhook DDT. Fans are going insane. He takes the mask off, and it's Matt Cardona, where equally as loud, the fans completely turned from happy to what the fuck. And I have to think that at first they had to have been like, oh, this is bullshit. But then once he started posting on social media, and once Gage started posting on social media, and they started having this back and forth, and it was genius. And then the feud continued, where they were show up at each other's shows, coming through the crowd, trying to get at each other. Gage came and interrupted one of the live podcast events that they were doing, which they portrayed as one of the most realistic angles in wrestling at the time. Fast forward, Gage wins. Cardona beats Gage for the GCW World Heavyweight Championship, which he kept calling the GCW fans the GCW universe, which is obviously a play on the WWE universe, which made GCW that much more pissed off at him. Having Cardona as a straight up easy heel. It was an easy heel. And we've never seen him as a heel technically. He's always been a face that we either booed or cheered because of that. But having him as this natural heel is the best thing that's ever happened to his career, in my opinion. And so anyways, and then he comes dressed as Vince McMahon, like he did in the WWE CW era, where McMahon came out in the do-rag and the sweats. Like he's killing it. And
he made the GCW belt a spinner.
Yeah, which was is the most hated WWE title, probably that US title. Obviously he loses the championship and calls it the I forget what town it was. I think it was the New Jersey screw job or whatever it was,
Yeah,
which is
Atlantic City screw job.
another fucking play on words there. Then because of that, introduces the internet championship back in this feud with Effie, which Effie, again, I have to dispute. Effie is a huge name in the indies, but if you're new to the indies or you haven't really watched the indies much,
that's what I'm talking about.
You now know who he is because of
mainstream
this.
now. Yeah,
100%.
You know,
Effie beats him. Go ahead.
I could tell you a bunch of bands that I like this tattoo, Enter the Haggis. They had, thousands of people when they were at Kansas City Irish Fest. They put on a great show. How fucking many people know them?
Right.
I get, so many bands. There's TV shows now. There's stuff like that. They have a huge following, but they're not mainstream. You don't hear a lot of these bands on the radio, even though they have a following. That's what I'm saying about Effie. That's what I'm saying about Gage and GCW.
Right.
You had mentioned GCW to me a long time ago, and I was like, oh, okay, now I'm fucking excited about that. Because of Cardona, because they got
I totally agree.
He get a big name, but he did such a fucking good job.
Yeah, and if this is because look, he's got to think about it like this. Like, first of all, like, again, he's got eyes on him on the internet. On the internet, he is a sensation. Like I said, between his podcast and everything else in his vlogs, he's a character in himself. And he's got this whole group of characters kind of that surround him, like Super Gabby, which, if you don't watch Major Wrestling Figure Podcast, Super Gabby is this guy who sells figures out of a storage unit, and he's super sketchy but hilarious. And so he's able to kind of introduce characters that are real life, and then he's got his fiance Chelsea Green, who's obviously doing huge things in the indies and the upper indies right now. Like, he's killing it. And this thing with Effie not only brings in Effie, but then there's Alley Catch, who's with Effie, and there's all these other characters. Like, honestly, there's a crew like Dan the Dad and Warhorse and all these guys that and girls that are involved in a lot of the St. Louis wrestling. Like, he's Effie's got his hands with all of them, so it's doing nothing but good for the indie scene, to be honest, because you've got this massive character that everybody knows, who's known as a WWE guy, who's killing it in the indies and blaming the indies for his misfortunes. It's happening so naturally that it's hard to argue that he's not the most intriguing character in pro wrestling right now.
Yeah, that's what he's changing the game right now.
He really is. And game changer wrestling.
It's all about the game and how you play
it. You're doing something special too when, before a match, Mick Foley, the hardcore legend, which again, Matt Cardona is trying to steal that moniker because he had one death match and now he's the death match king and all that.
Death match king.
There's a video going around.
I'm sweaty.
There's a video going
I put
around.
My arms up.
You're not talking to Nikita Koloff today, man. Settle down. But yeah, it's good.
That's how excited Matt Cardona gets me.
Right. It's good when Mick Foley posts videos online of him at the GCW show before the championship match saying, and Mick Foley doesn't curse much. He said, from the bottom of my heart, fuck Matt Cardona. And the place went ape shit. Again, clearly he beat he beat Effie on I think it was October 9th. He beat Effie to regain the internet championship. Man, Yeah, no, you're 100% right. And it was funny. Chelsea Green came in to interfere to help with basically looking like Chelsea Green, but she had like a stocking mask on. So we all knew who the fuck it was. Uh, but yeah, man, and it had total ECW vibes. Like it really just felt like an ECW thing. And that's the thing with GCW is they, to me, in my opinion, aside from the fact that I think AEW is the absolute evolution of what would have been ECW. And what's funny is a few of them were just talking about that after an episode of either Rampage or Dynamite went off the air. They had mentioned that and brought out some of the alumni from ECW they had, which I had mentioned in one of our what ifs before. But
Oh, what
GCW,
if ECW had funding?
yep,
Yes,
yeah,
I remember that.
and so GCW just feels like it's the spiritual successor of what ECW was. Obviously, it's a CW, GCW, ECW. You know, it's got the hardcore stuff, but it's not all hardcore stuff. You know, so it's and then the arena, that place there, I forget what the ballroom is that they have those shows in, but it's fucking beautiful and perfect for pro wrestling. But yeah, man, I have to totally agree. Matt Cardona is totally, totally the highlight of pro wrestling, at least as far as getting indie guys over. And that's the thing. So CM Punk being in AEW, his whole purpose is to get the young guys over, which is kind of the same thing that Matt Cardona is doing, except for Matt's actually down in the indies where AEW is number 2, if not like number 2.5 of, you know, the top dogs in the wrestling community. So, but yeah, I totally agree. And I don't know how hot of a take that actually is, because I have to believe that there's other people that agree with us, but I wanted to talk about it, and so did you. So
did I. So, well, and how many, yeah, because you're talking about him boosting up the indie guys. How many Effie shirts has he sold because of this feud? How many Nick Gage pizza cutters have been sold?
Yeah.
How many
dude
GCW pay-per-view buys
Nick
because
Gage
of this?
is getting his first action figure because of Matt Cardona and his connections to the figure world. He's getting his first action figure, and it comes with a fucking pizza cutter, like, and a light and some light tubes. Like, so I don't care if they, you know, they kayfabed the shit out of that feud, but Nick Gage has got to be eternally grateful that feud happened, because he's a made guy. And I've been watching a lot of Sopranos, so now my verbiage is he's a made guy. But he is. Everyone knows the name Nick Gage now. Everybody knows his face, whether they've watched any of his matches or not since then is a whole nother story. But like you said, if it wasn't for that, he may or may not have ended up on that AEW show, that episode. If anything, Matt Cardona just fast tracked it. You know, he's got that whole episode of Dark Side of the Ring. You know, it's just Matt Cardona has done a lot, and I think the GCW fans who hate him, quote unquote, are probably also very grateful, because it stirred it up. It was new. It's something that GCW hadn't done before. It put, like you said, put eyes on it that weren't there before. It did nothing but good for that company. And other indie promotions that are now booking Matt Cardona in similar scenarios because it's working. So good on Matt Cardona, man. He's killing it, and I totally agree that he's definitely the most intriguing thing, or at least one of the most intriguing things happening in wrestling right now.
And now I just have to say that somebody from Journey Pros should start talking shit.
Well, yeah,
about Matt Cardona.
It could be any of them. So yeah, the Journey Pro, Glory Pro, WrestleMax, Anarchy, any of them. Like they could all use a little Matt Cardona. But at the same, I will admit though, I say that, but at the same time, those companies all have good shit going on without them too. So if they decide they want to use them, I'm all for it. So we're gonna go ahead and jump into our boy. We missed him last week, man. We had such an exciting show last week that we didn't have our weekly JCB rant. JCB, Jason Cornelius Bell from Banned from Ringside podcast, at BFR Pod on Twitter, at BFR JCB on Twitter. So without further ado, we're gonna reintroduce JCB's What If segment. what if segment, his rant right now.
He's heating up. This is banned from ringside.
What's up, everybody? This is your boy JCB. I'm back for my weekly rant. My rant this week is on the women's tournament, the Queen's Crown tournament. I believe is what it's called. It's been all of about 10 minutes of a first round tournament so far, so I can't really be blamed for not remembering what the name of this tournament is. Basically, this is the equivalent of the King of the Ring. The finals will be in Saudi Arabia. That's strike one. But strike two, the biggest problem with this so far is the length of the matches. There have been 4 matches so far, opening round matches. The longest match of these 4 matches was Dewdrop versus Natty, 2 minutes and 55 seconds. What the fuck is that? If you're going to do the tournament, then do it. Do it right. Put an investment in it. You got women in here that you can push at some point and make a new superstar. Instead, this just feels like who is most likely to go to Saudi Arabia and not be totally offended and be the team player that WWE wants you to be. This fucking tournament is a goddamn joke. They should have never put it out there. Look, Crown Jewel is going to be a nice card to begin with. You don't have to have Queen of the Ring or the Queen's Crown tournament, finals there to have a good card. You got a good card there anyway. Against my better judgment, I'm gonna probably watch it regardless. But this tournament is a absolute fucking joke. The fact that they're putting this on to begin with is a good thing, but the bad thing about this is that they are having no sort of investment in it. The fact that they did Evolution years ago and haven't done a second Evolution should have been the cue that this tournament was going to be nothing but a bunch of hot garbage. That's your boy JCB. I'm out. See you next week.
This is banned from ringside.
All right. As always, thank you, JCB, for that weekly rant. And Patrick, you had some odds and ends. You had some odds and ends you wanted to jump in and speak a little bit about. What do you want to talk about today?
Well, I watched a lot of wrestling this week, and none of it was none of it. Well, you've been busy saving the world. Yeah, I watched a lot of wrestling this week, and none of it was WWE.
Nice.
And it's kind of nice that we live in a time. So, Rampage and Dynamite, just stellar.
As usual.
Yeah, the Super Elite versus Christian Cage, Bryan Danielson, and Jurassic Express. Yeah, that was just so much fun. It was super exciting. The Daniel Garcia CM Punk match was just a clinic. That was the old grizzled warrior going up against the young blood, and
Daniel Garcia is great too.
Yeah, Ricky Starks, Brian Cage. Ricky Starks.
He's one of those. He's another one of those pillars that wasn't mentioned on Dynamite the other week. I feel like Ricky Starks is going to be a big deal down the road.
You give him 5 years, he's going to be everywhere.
I agree. He's got a lot of rock energy.
Yeah. He's like a smaller version of the Rock. He's the Pebble. So Dynamite and Rampage, just great shows as usual. Watched Impact. Impact was a lot of fun. The main event, the tag team of Josh Alexander and Christian Cage going up against Ace Austin and Madman Fulton.
Nice,
and then Josh Alexander getting ready to finish him. Christian reaches in and does a little tag, so he gets the win and stuff.
They're obviously setting up for him. Yeah,
building up that tension for their Bound for Glory match. I still say Josh is the man to dethrone Christian. Dude,
it only makes sense.
He's just stellar in the ring, and he's really good on the mic. I do like. I love the in-ring action of Impact. I think it's really, really good. But that fucking casino, that whole casino bit, it is so bad that it's good. I absolutely love
That's
Love
kind of
it.
been Impact's thing for a long time. If they know it's gonna be kind of weak, they might as well go all in on it and just let it
Yeah,
be over the top and stupid.
they go full ham. The Tennille Dashwood and what's her Madison Rain, hey, you know how they have their little interview show and Decay comes in and takes it over. Oh, that was brilliant.
Yeah,
So yeah,
I agree.
Impact is great. Now my DVR, I don't know, it didn't record the Ring of Honor from last week, but I did watch because I haven't caught up on Ring of Honor too much. So I did watch one from end of September, and uh, two things. One, Jonathan Gresham. Holy shit, that dude is a beast. Oh man, he is just so good. I mean, all around, just
Yeah.
amazing. And then there was the Pure Rules of Brian Johnson versus PJ Black, who
Yep. PJ Black's amazing.
I didn't know that PJ Black was Justin Gabriel.
Yep.
Because it had been so long, and
He's grown up.
Yeah, he looks like he could be Tyler Bates' dad.
Yeah.
And it was a great match. You know, just a lot of fun, really exciting. Brian Johnson got the win. But PJ Black's hair, dude's got like every hairstyle going on at once. I don't know what's going on with that. But yeah, so Ring of Honor was that was solid. I can't wait for them to get crowds back. I think that's the reason why I don't watch it, is because it's the only show that's no crowd.
Impact and MLW were the last two that had just finally started getting crowds again.
And that leads me into MLW, since
I was going to mention it if you didn't. Yeah.
Yeah, MLW is on Vice now, and Vice is on Sling TV, and Patriot Pat has Sling TV. So I set that up to DVR it, and I had watched a couple of the YouTube episodes and stuff, but I mean, look at me, I'm old. YouTube is not my thing. That's your thing, Luch. I want it convenient. I want easy. I want to hit my DVR. I want my Roku and my TiVo. Right.
I want my VHS and my laser discs.
I want my VHS. Yeah, I want my Betamax. So MLW, wow. That was
they're great, man. They're super underrated.
They are so good. The
only thing that throws me off about them is the ring is like it's either a 16 or a 14. So like WWE tiny. And AEW have the 20 by 20. They have such a smaller ring, and it kind of throws me off, but that's the smallest nitpick I could possibly find for them. Otherwise their content is great.
Yeah, I mean, like the show, Fightland. Their premiere was the 4-way match for the middleweight, national or world champion, and then the heavyweight champion.
Yeah, so the fatal 4-way was Tajiri, Myron Reed, Ariz, and Armas, I think.
Yeah. That's what threw me off. Those two dudes, their names were so close that I was having trouble telling them apart. From the announcers, because I'm unfamiliar.
Tajiri coming through with the win on that one.
Yeah. And then the Hammerstone Fatu match. Whew,
meaty men slapping meat.
Yeah, that was ugly. And I had seen on Twitter that where Hammerstone rolled his ankle. So and then I saw it in the match. I was like, oh. I mean, I did that playing basketball back in the day. That's no fun. And that was just me running up and down a court. I wasn't trying to lift up a 300-pound Samoan.
Also, a match of note. There was quite a few on this card, but the Open Cup, Opera Cup semifinal match of Davey Richards beating Bobby Fish. Davey Richards is amazing. Also a St. Louis guy now, for the most part. And then Bobby Fish, obviously being one of the greatest, technical and striker type kicks and punches type guys. Fucking awesome match.
And Bobby Fish still looks like he should be bare knuckle boxing in back alleys in New York City in the 30s.
And that's the other thing about MLW that I love too, is that they're doing they're doing their best to bring back the soul of Lucha Underground with Azteca Underground. So we're gonna start seeing bits and pieces of. I even in its worst seasons, I was a Lucha Underground fanatic, clearly. But yeah, that was a super cool show.
It was a lot of fun. I'm really impressed with the production, with the I liked the little panel in the middle. They had a bunch of wrestling analysts on there. My one critique about Meltzer is, if you're going to be on TV and you're going to be this fucking close to the camera, maybe put something on that giant zit that's leaking on your face. Maybe put some makeup on that or something.
Probably
that was
cold sore full of lies. I have a love-hate thing with Meltzer, man.
I'm just gonna move on. I'm just gonna say, cover the open wounds on your face when you're on camera. I mean, you could maybe grow a beard. It's worked for me.
He probably can't grow a beard. I'm growing one.
I don't know. There was also a spot like down here that he missed shaving. I mean, I'm just like, dude, you're on TV.
He's a wrestling reporter. He doesn't have to do any of that shit.
So, but yeah. MLW, yep, that's set up on the DVR now. I really dug it. And I'm gonna enjoy watching it like I enjoyed when I started watching Ring of Honor, and when I started watching AEW, and just getting into the characters and
that's what that'll that's what'll rope you in. At least for me, if you've got a company like MLW does have seeded storylines that they go through, even if sometimes they're not super strong, they still have them, which it's easy to get. It's like, and then they have the Von Erichs, which is always fun. They got Filthy Tom Lawler, who's always entertaining, like, which right now he's like a massive heel, which is strange. But their roster is Warhorse was on that show. Yeah, Will Ospreay.
Ospreay is coming. So I mean, everyone's saying he's like the one of the top 3 in the world.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and good on them for picking him up, man, because that's gonna do the same. They're nothing but eyes on MLW from this point forward. But yeah, that was a super cool show. We could talk about some WWE, but why? So we're gonna move on. And
hey boy, WWE, as I wear my Mustache Mountain shirt, but that's just because Fred 7 is my spirit animal.
I mean, come on. Like, first of all, I mean, I'm not going to get into details, but obviously the Roman storyline is still intriguing. The idea of this whole Edge and Seth Rollins thing continuing is kind of intriguing. Big E hasn't lost the world title yet. So, we're going there. Goldberg is still Goldberg, and he's still old and Bergy.
And in round 1 of the Queen's Crown tournament, there were on Raw, there were 4 matches with a total combined match time of like 8 minutes and 12 seconds. Good on you. Really showcase that female talent. You got some of the best wrestlers in the world, of that gender. And you got 3 hours to fucking fill, and you give 4 matches a total of 8 minutes combined. You have 3 hours, 3 fucking hours to fill, and that's all they get. These women are so fucking talented. They're entertained. They headlined WrestleManias, and you're fucking giving them 8 minutes combined for 4 fucking matches.
Not only that, but like, even with the King of the Ring tournament, I saw the card when they originally dropped the bracket, and there's only like 6 people involved. Like, I remember King of the Ring being like a big ass, like, what, just use a bunch of people who aren't used and beat them. Like, it's a tournament. These are supposed, like, I'm with the BFR guys. Like, tournaments are some of my favorite things because they make logical sense, and they can set up storylines and feuds. So even if you lose the tournament, as long as you do it correctly, you can start a massive feud and a great angle out of a tournament. Tournaments are the best, even if it's not like King of the Ring. Like in WWE, in the 2K games, like I always have a tournament leading into a championship match, even if it's not for a title. That person becomes number one contender, or they beat them for the, or it's a title match at the end, or whatever. But tournaments are just so intriguing, and they're doing this like they do the tag division. They're just doing it for fan service, but there's no soul or backbone to it. You know, they don't really care. They're just doing it because we asked for it. Then they can turn around and say, well, you guys asked for it, we did what you wanted, we're listening. Well, no, you're just giving us bread that's stale instead of giving us fresh bread that's been toasted with gourmet butter on it, or avocado, or jelly, or what, or fucking
We're
apple butter, whatever.
we're getting fucking hydrogenated trans fat shit, and it's spread out. It's spread out over 3-4 weeks. I remember when King of the Ring was its own pay-per-view, and that was it. Maybe you had like a title match at the end, a world title match at the end, but the King of the Ring was the tournament, just like Royal Rumble. Well, is you have the Royal Rumble, and then you have a couple of title matches
and Extreme Rules. So even so, like, look back in history at the King of the Ring. Look at all the made, again with that word, the made guys that have come from King of the Ring. Like all of these guys that won King of the Ring have gone on mostly to be really big deals in the company and afterwards. I mean, Austin is always the first one to come to mind.
Angle, Austin, Owen.
There's so many. Booker,
King
Booker. But yeah, I mean, for real. And then what happened the last few times? Like, I don't remember who was even the King of the Ring before Corbin. And Corbin,
that's because they didn't have it for like 5 years.
True. So, and with Corbin, that wasn't a complete disaster. I didn't hate the Corbin thing. I think what they're doing with him now is a lot more intriguing, with him being like this, kind of high, whatever. The happy Corbin thing works. It's just still not like what are you guys doing? But yeah, I mean, the King of the Ring is nothing but, if booked correctly, is all good. Like, it means nothing but good for everyone involved. And the fact that it's like a tournament that's leading into Blood in the Sand, or whatever they call it, Crown Jewel.
I thought it was throw the homosexuals off the building, but I mean, kill the journalist. Is that it?
Yes, something along those lines.
But
yeah, the fact that it's all
oil
just
for
something,
blood.
blood oil or whatever.
But yeah, oily blood. That's it. That's
it. Just the fact that it's all just something that's happening on their weekly shows leading into that pay-per-view, instead of it being its own inclusive pay-per-view where they could get rid of fucking Extreme Rules. They could get rid of Hell in the Cell as a pay-per-view, not as a match stipulation, but as a pay-per-view, and add something back like King of the Ring. King of the Ring was one of the top like 5 pay-per-views when we were growing up,
Oh yeah.
I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me, and it doesn't really matter, because I'm going to be totally honest. I only got to see bits and pieces of AEW this week, which kind of bummed me out because I'm a huge AEW mark. I got to see bits and pieces of MLW, and I got some highlights from other things. But like you said earlier, it's been a really hectic week for me, a couple weeks. So I haven't really been able to dive in as much as I normally do. But I could have been doing nothing and would have not watched WWE programming. And I don't mean to sound bitter. Again, like you said, it's really nice the time we're in, because we're able to watch whatever we want and not have to watch what we don't want. Because if we didn't have all these other companies right now, you and I would be doing this podcast, and all we'd be doing is shitting on WWE, which is a lot of podcasts. And I'm not knocking that. Band from Ringside spends a good amount of time shitting on WWE. They spend almost as much time just discussing what they're doing. They're not just an exclusive shit on WWE podcast, but I listen to it and I'm entertained by it. And a lot of times what's being said is valid. But it's a shame, because like we said in last week and the week before and the week before that, they have extremely, extremely good talent they're not stupid when it comes to who they book. But it's just how they book them is still in the air for me. And now all of a sudden, WWE's using WCW shit from back in the day that WWE shit on when it happened by adding Chucky to Raw. Like, is Lily his girlfriend? Like,
I saw a tweet last night that said, it was from Chucky. Less talking, more wrestling. Hashtag WWE Raw. And it was like, even the fucking stupid doll gets it, you know?
Yep. But so that's our odds and ends. I'm not gonna every time we get to talking about WWE, I end up cutting most of it out for the audio version of this podcast. So
well, leave the Queen's Crown stuff in. Everything after that.
Oh, we'll leave everything in. We're making good time right now. So but we are gonna move.
I will say,
yeah.
Oh, I do want to throw in a couple of pop culture things real quick.
Do it.
So on Hulu, if you have the Hulu, Only Murders in the Building with Steve Martin, Martin Short, and Selena Gomez.
I've heard good things.
It's absolutely brilliant. It's fucking hysterical. I grew up with Steve Martin and Martin Short. I mean, fucking Three Amigos and
same.
All that shit. And then the other one on Hulu is Why the Last Man. It was based on a graphic novel, and it's about every male dies except for one dude named, his name is Uric Y. So, and also Y chromosome. So they got to figure out why he's the only one that survived. So it's, kind of a dystopian post-apocalyptic type thing. But it also goes into like the social aspects of like, how much men actually are in power and control and stuff, and how kind of that needs to change. I'm a few episodes into that. Really, really good, solid writing. Diane Lane's in it. She's still absolutely gorgeous. So yeah, those are my pop culture things.
With pop culture stuff, I watched Many Saints of Newark, which is the Sopranos prequel movie. You probably don't have to watch Sopranos or had watched Sopranos to understand the movie, but you will definitely benefit from knowing some of the show. But I will say I've been a huge fan of that series since it started like 100 years ago now. And it's, in my opinion, no pun intended, it's the godfather of those HBO style dramas, with Breaking Bad and that everything that's come since then. But after watching the movie, I started back into the series, and it made the movie that much more good, because the it's good. It's not amazing. But if you're a Sopranos fan, I definitely recommend it, especially if you're going to follow up with watching the series after, because they really did pay a lot of attention. My only complaint was that it was a 2-hour movie that should have been maybe a 2-season series. They crammed a lot of information and a lot of stuff into one 2-hour movie. But if you're a fan like I am, you'll probably enjoy it. Any other pop culture tidbits?
Not that I can think of.
Okay.
No.
If you think of anything, we'll do this again next week too, because I like the idea of kind of jumping in and out of wrestling a little bit from time to time.
I've been listening to a lot of ska. And I say, if you want really good shitty music, look up Voodoo Glow Skulls.
Voodoo Glow Skulls is awesome. I don't care what anybody says. So, so yeah, as we move along on today's episode, we're going to move along. It feels like this went by really quick. It's different. We only had the one episode with an interview with a guest. For you listeners and not watchers, Patrick's very sweaty right now. And he's gonna get us banned on YouTube by showing off his sweaty pits this whole time. Speaking of YouTube, I was gonna do this a little later in the show, but hey, we have a giant stop it, Patrick. He's touching himself. he's not touching himself in that way, but he's doing it in a let's move on. So watch the episode on YouTube. Great segue, by the way, Patrick, getting us to go into this segue of watching you on YouTube do some inappropriate things. we have a giant whopping 5 subscribers on YouTube right now, and we are extremely thankful
yeah.
for all 5 of you. But I will say, even if you don't watch YouTube, most people, if you have a Gmail account, you probably are signed in to, when you're signed into Gmail, you pretty much have an account through a lot of the things that Gmail is connected to, YouTube being one of them. Look, I know that some of you watch YouTube. I'm a huge YouTube viewer. He's not so much. If you're like Patrick, all you have to do is go on to Sideways in Time Network on YouTube. You'll know it because it's the logo and it's really cool. And also, subscribing helps, man. It really does. So even if you just subscribe and you never come back to the channel, it does help a lot to get those subscriptions. And as we progress and get more of them, we are able to do more things and be more content friendly. As we've discussed the last few weeks, slowly but surely, we will be introducing some new segments and some new video content to the channel.
Yep, some fun stuff.
Yeah. So, and of course, again, if you're listening to this and you haven't jumped on the YouTube channel, so our audio podcast obviously drops every week on Spotify, iTunes, everywhere podcasts are found. But if you're entertained by watching a little guy in a mask and a taller guy with a beard and a patriotic cowboy hat, come on and join us on YouTube. Leave some comments, subscribe, like the videos. Again, all it's going to do is help us, and it really won't take up any of your time. So we would really, really appreciate it. Also, if you're interested and you're a fan of the show and you're on Facebook and not Twitter, we have the Sideways in Time Nerds private group on Facebook. Just search in Sideways in Time Nerds. Request to be a part of the group. We throw memes in there. We might start doing some pay-per-view watch-alongs in there, that kind of stuff. Just general discussion. And we drop our episodes and all that kind of stuff in there as well. And then, of course, on YouTube, on Twitter, right there, you can follow us at Podcast Kinda, at Lucha Chris TV, at Patriot Pat _1776. So yeah, just come show us some love. And with that being said, let's jump into our main event, Patrick. What's our main event tonight?
Oh, the main event. Ding, ding.
Ding, ding.
This was the runner-up from 2 weeks ago, last week, whatever we did the last poll.
Yeah, it was last week.
This was the one. This is the one that we kind of wanted to do more. But this is what if Shawn Michaels, the Heartbreak Kid, Mr. WrestleMania, the man who hasn't seen a barbershop window that he hasn't thrown a friend through. What if he left?
Also probably hasn't seen a barbershop in a while. He's looking rough.
He doesn't need to.
That's true. He's Shawn Michaels.
What if Shawn Michaels left WWE with Hall Nash, or right around the same time as Hall Nash? Now, granted, we know that this is a very, very big what if, because he was under contract for a few more years. But that's the fun of what if. We go, hey, what if?
So we're gonna jump in the time machine. We're gonna strap in. We're gonna set the space-time continuum, or space-time, whatever. We're gonna strap in. We're gonna go sideways in time, and like Patrick said,
flux capacitor.
That's it. And we're going to, like he said, we're going to check out what if Shawn Michaels left WWF for WCW in the Monday Night Wars. And to set the scene, January 1999, Shawn Michaels was the WWF champion. And in order for Shawn to go to WCW, he would have had to drop the belt to The Undertaker at Royal Rumble or vacate it. It's one of those... if you didn't know, obviously the Clique, it was Shawn Michaels, Kevin Nash, Scott Hall, Triple H, and Sean Waltman, aka X-Pac. And there was the infamous curtain call, which we've discussed on this show before. And obviously that was all leading from Hall and Nash leaving for WCW. And Shawn Michaels was very adamant about saying that he was not going to leave. Him and Vince were very close. He was obviously a top guy. A lot of people called him the golden boy of that era. Obviously, if he would have left for WCW, you know, Nitro and WCW would have seen a massive increase in ratings for the, you know, the weeks into that, you know, being that he's such a major star in the WWF. During the time in WCW, the NWO had been around for almost 2 years. So it was very certain that he would have joined or been a part of the NWO angle in some way or another, obviously, with Hall and Nash being there and being such crucial parts of it. And obviously, losing Shawn would have been a huge loss for WWF as one of their top stars, along with, you know, Brett and the majority of the mid 90s would have lost a lot of their top guys at that point. You know, the bump in ratings would have been some definite bragging rights for the for WCW against WWF. You know, getting Hall and Nash was a big deal, but at the time, Shawn was the guy. So it would have been like WWF's equivalent of Hulk Hogan being the leader of the NWO, in my opinion. Like, not to say that Shawn was anywhere near or anything like Hulk Hogan, just status wise, you know, he was the guy in the WWF at the time. You know, what would have happened with Sting and Goldberg, DDP, other notable talent at WCW? They probably would have gotten buried. Goldberg wouldn't have had 173 winning streak. DDP and Sting would have also suffered. You know, because Shawn Michaels would have definitely been there to bury people, not intentionally on his part, but such a high caliber talent joining a roster of extremely high caliber talent with all the NWO angle and all that kind of stuff. You know, ultimately, I don't know what the future would have held there, though. You know, I still think personally that WWE still would have probably, I don't think Shawn Michaels would have been the absolute tipping point for WCW. I don't think Shawn Michaels would have been the reason WCW would have won the Monday Night Wars. I think he would have helped, and it may have helped stretch out the ratings a little longer. Maybe WCW wouldn't have been bought out for a few more years. But considering that, you know, it would have been around 1998 that it happened, and it wasn't until 2001 that WWE officially started using WCW in their storylines. You know, would Shawn Michaels have been the ultimate tipping point? I don't know. But I don't think so. What would have been interesting, though, is that if he would have left and done well in those 3 or 4 years for WCW, say Vince McMahon still has the opportunity to buy WCW, because let's face it, creative wouldn't have necessarily been any better off. Shawn is a very smart and intelligent guy. He's really good with the psychology of the business, but so was Hall and Nash. So I don't necessarily think that Shawn being there would have been like I said, I don't think it would have been the breaking point, but it would have been interesting to see Shawn either leave before WCW shut down to go back to the WWE, or, I mean, he could have gotten hurt in WCW and had to take a massive break like he did, where he left and he found God and changed his whole lifestyle and was out of the business for quite a few years. So it would have been interesting had he not come back to WWF at all after leaving, but been a part of the NWO angle when they brought Hall and Nash and Hogan back, or not even back, when they brought him in for the first time as the NWO, when Vince McMahon, you know, hired the NWO to come in and help try to stop. I don't remember if it was Bischoff or Ric Flair at the time, because I know Ric Flair was co-owner of Raw at one point in that whole story. And then, you know, there would have been a lot of iconic matches that would have never happened had he left WWF at the time. And I can't really think of any fantastic ones that would have beat what he did in WWF had he gone to WCW. What do you think, Pat?
Okay, so Hulk Hogan, Shawn Michaels was the man in WWE, but he was kind of the man because the pool to choose from was kind of shallow.
Right.
You had Macho Man leave, you had Hall Nash leave, you had Hogan leave, you know, all these people were leaving and going to WCW. I mean, so, he was the man because, Bret Hart left, all this, he was the man because he was the young guy, he was charismatic and stuff like that. And he was also, kind of the only choice to be the face of the company at that point. And no knock against him. It was just that, he was just kind of really pushed into the I don't want to say pushed into the main event, but because he was ready for it. He was ready for it, for a long time. And the dude, everybody says he's the greatest. But so he was at that point kind of the kingfish in the small pond. Small pond, like big name wise, not.
Yeah, no, I get it.
Why would you go, if he went over there, he would just be another big fish, but there would be so many bigger fish. You have Hogan, you have Savage, you have Flair, you have Nash, you have Hall, you have,
Lex,
they built a DDP,
Sting.
they built, Goldberg, all these other guys and stuff that he would have been kind of lost in the shuffle. I don't think, and he wouldn't have the legacy that he has today. And like you said, the iconic matches we wouldn't have got, the Undertaker Michaels match, everybody rates that as like,
the WrestleMania, the WrestleMania match, right?
Yeah. They rated as like one of the top 5 matches of all time. I mean,
it's hard to disagree with that, man. It is a fantastic fucking match.
It was just that's just one of those. And then they did it again, and usually the sequel doesn't live up. And if that first match was a 10, the second match was like a 9-5.
I mean, and you had Ric Flair's quote unquote retirement match, which was a very very emotional moment for wrestling in general.
Yeah, and granted that happened years later, but would that story have built up?
Right, exactly.
Like
same with a lot of the feuds between him and Triple H, and that in mind, and it's one thing I forgot now, and sorry for interrupting you, but DX.
Yeah, we wouldn't. Yeah, DX
we would have had it, but
I don't know if that would have given DX more power if Shawn left to go to WCW and was an NWO. If Triple H would have taken over, and that would have given DX some more power. But
it would have, and it may have shifted how DX was used. Maybe they wouldn't have been just the silly degenerates. Maybe they would have made it a little bit more of a serious, force to be reckoned with, just to kind of try to keep their ratings higher due to their predicament. But continue.
But I think him staying in WWE, we could speculate about anything, but him staying in WWE was the absolute right decision. I don't think he would have been as impactful. Yeah, he might have got a world title run like Bret Hart got a world title run.
Yeah, but look how they did Bret Hart in WCW.
Yeah, you had the greatest name in wrestling at the time, and he just kind of floundered. And he was big showing, flip-flopping between heel and face week to week for no reason. I don't think it would have been that extreme for Shawn. Shawn also very outspoken, so and also being good friends with Hall and Nash and stuff. He would have had more oomph to him, but I don't think it would be anywhere near the levels of Shawn Michaels today, or of Shawn Michaels staying in WWE.
And we would have maybe seen the downfall of Shawn Michaels as far as his well-being, because he was over there in a company that didn't really keep an eye on those types of behaviors as much. I mean, Scott Hall being a very great example of that, and among others. But his substance abuse and his alcoholism and his behavior may have been even worse because they didn't have as much of a leash on him. Vince was very well known as trying to keep Shawn as much in line as he could, knowing, one, he was going to bring money into their company. Two, he was safer with them. He was like an Undertaker in the sense that that's their guy. Shawn was their guy. He wasn't over there at WCW he was always the WWF guy. So yeah, it's hard to say, man. Like, it would have been cool. It would have been super cool, and it would have definitely, if you really want to sit back in 1998 and think about the impact that would have made immediately, it would have been massive, and it would have, and I think it would have shook WWF. It really would have. But I think Vince, being the kind of cerebral type, creative type at that time, he would have found a way to not only dig at him for leaving, but turn it into something that would have boosted ratings in their favor. Who knows what would have happened and who would have taken his place, because they already had guys in line, so it wasn't like Austin would have taken his place, because Austin was basically took Brett's place.
Mhm.
If you really want to think about it like that. So ultimately, guys like Triple H and Undertaker and Mankind and all those guys were already kind of in line to be top guys. So, who knows? It's really interesting though, because it's a weird frame of time, being that, Shawn Michaels was out. He wasn't wrestling full time there for a little while between that period and when he came back to the WWE after his retirement. So we don't know that he would have even been able to spend his whole time at WCW in in active in an active role. Maybe
Yeah.
he would have just ended up some kind of talking role, because he wasn't able to wrestle. Who knows?
Well, and look at I mean, just fluke things like Davey Boy Smith getting his back injury because they didn't tell him where a trap door was. I mean, there could have been a fluke, something like that. Is Shawn going
Right.
all out, diving over the ropes or something? I mean, it could have been. I don't know. My big thing about, so Shawn left such a legacy in WWE. The best way I can equate it was like, because when you said if he showed up, it would have been cool. It'd have been a cool moment. That would be like, getting a titty flash. You're like, ooh,
Right.
that was an awesome moment.
Yeah.
That was a lot of fun. Whereas his thing in WWE is like having a long lasting relationship with a woman that you absolutely love.
Had your
And
trials and tribulations with her, but you guys stuck it out ultimately. Like, it made you stronger,
yeah,
made you love each other more.
yeah. So
It was
I mean,
better for the
what
business.
I'm saying is, yeah, Sean's time in WWE is like the perfect spouse.
I agree.
You
I
know,
couldn't know. That's a great way to put it.
whereas him going to WWE, it would have been a quick fling, a one night stand or something like that. It would have been awesome. Like, oh my God, he's here. Oh,
I agree.
Plus, is his name isn't even Shawn Michaels. Does he own the rights to the name? Would he have to change his name?
I'm not sure, to be honest with you. I think based on
I
how the
know a lot of the
contracts
big
worked.
names.
Yeah, I mean, based on how the contracts worked back in those days, maybe he would have had something in the contract that Shawn Michaels was his thing. But considering he was a WWF branded guy, he may have had to come in with a slightly. He would have been Michael Shawnson. No, okay.
He'd have been Steve Giannetti.
Yeah. Oh my God. So yeah. I mean, ultimately, it would have, because he would have rounded off. I mean, at the end of the day, he would have come back. He would have rounded off and ended his career in WWF, WWE, regardless. I think just solely based on his relationship with Vince McMahon, but also because I still believe that Vince McMahon still would have had the opportunity down the road to buy WCW. So in doing so, he would have still come back in some capacity. Bones agrees. And yeah, so it would have been a really interesting time, and it would have shaken things up, but I really don't know that it would have changed too much ultimately, because around that time, Shawn was in and out of the business in general. Although he made a massive impact in the WWF as their champion and as a character, I don't think it would have ultimately made WWF or WWE any worse off. It would have been a blow, but I think they would have been okay in the long run.
Yeah, I think it was just Sean's legacy would have been, I agree with you that things would have unfolded pretty much like they did in real life, but yeah, I think it was Sean's legacy that wouldn't be near what it is.
I agree. Let's take a pause real quick. I'll be right back. I'll cut this out.
I'm just over here dancing.
All right, so yeah, let us know what you guys think as well. Again, we would love to hear your guys' feedback on Twitter, on Facebook, on the comments below, on YouTube. Whatever you want to do, let us know what you think would have happened or how it would have turned out if Shawn Michaels would have joined WCW in 1998. And here in the next day or so, we'll put up a poll on what one of our next what if main events should be. We love that you guys vote on that. Keeps you involved and keeps us from having to do too much work.
Yeah.
So moving on, we are this episode went super quick. Doesn't feel like we've been talking for an hour already, but I wanted to jump in. I didn't get to do it last week, so I wanted to make sure I caught up on it this week. We have some indie wrestling shows that I want to announce to you guys. I want you guys to get them all in your skull and let them rattle around in there so you can decide to buy tickets and take some trips and go see some good old wrestling. So on December 4th, it's a little ways away, so you got plenty of time. I think it's at the Afton's Elk Lodge for episode, I think this is 7 of WrestleMax. Doors are at 4 p.m. Bell is at 5 p.m. General admission is $20, and kids 10 and under $5, and front row is $30. And you can jump on Twitter at WrestleMax STL for more details and the roster. Again, I'll mention that we all go a little mad sometimes. St. Louis Anarchy, October 22nd. This is going to be badass. It's weird. We have a strange match that's epic. It's going to be Davey Vega and Anthony Henry versus Unsigned and Don't Care, which is Gary J and Anthony Williams, or Aaron Williams. I'm sorry. That, like I said, is October 22nd. I can't go without doing words. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that tickets are on sale now. It's in Granite City, Illinois. The pre-event party starts at 6 p.m. and the bell time starts at 7. If you've never been to a St. Louis Anarchy show, you do not want to miss that.
I'm glad we're in a medium that you don't have to use words. You know,
I'm terrible with words, especially since most of the time when we do this, all I do is drink like 4 cups of coffee and don't eat anything beforehand. So that probably doesn't help.
Geez.
Yeah. We have on November 12th in Detroit, Michigan, Evil Deeds, GCW. You can watch this on Fight TV. Tickets are available at GCW evil.eventbrite. Alex Shelley returns to GCW, which is going to be epic. If you're not aware, he was a really big deal in TNA and Impact Wrestling. So that one will be a blasty blast. And I believe the 23rd of October, they have Game Changer Wrestling presents War Ready. Again, Fight TV. You can get them at Eventbrite, your tickets. And it'll be the Second Gear Crew versus the Briscoes. The Briscoes are coming from Ring of Honor over to Game Changer. And that'll be pretty epic if I'm not mistaken. We've also got, we mentioned it a couple weeks ago, but I'm going to mention it again. AAW Hell Hath No Fury. That's on the 10th of this month. Bell time is at 2 p.m. It's in Berwyn, Illinois. at the Berlin Eagles Club. I don't know. Go to go to, where is it? AAW Pro, at AAW Pro on Twitter for more information for that. It's featuring the Mad King, Eddie Kingston.
Oh, wow.
Yes, sir. And again, that is on October 30th. Bell time is at 1:30 p.m. Actually, doors are at 1:30. Bell time is at 2 p.m. AEW is always a wonderful show. We also have just a couple more here. Glory Pro presents WrestlePocalypse. That's November 7th. Warhorse, Dan the Dad, Tootie, Myron Reed. It's a stacked Hakeem Zane. They're Glory Pro is always stacked. I'm stuttering because it's so good. Front row tickets are $25. General admission is $20. Kids are $10. This is at the South Broadway Athletic Club in St. Louis, Missouri. Doors are at 3. Bell time is at 4. And last but certainly not least, I'm kind of bummed out about this one, but Journey Pro Wrestling in Kansas City finally announced their next show, which will be October 29th. It is Freaks Come Out at Night. If you've never seen a Journey Pro show, obviously we talk a lot about Journey Pro, and we have a very, very close love for Journey Pro, being that we're Kansas City people, but also because they're just a wonderful company to be a fan of.
Walter and DJ are cool dudes.
They're just the most down-to-earth people I've ever met in the business. You can find them on Twitter at Journey Pro KC to check out the full lineup. Obviously, Jeremy Wyatt will be defending his Gateway Heritage Championship per usual against Cabana Man Dan, along with some other wrestlers' words to be announced here soon. Make sure you go, because I'm not going to be able to be there. So you guys need to show up for me and tell everybody that Lucha Chris and Patriot Pat sent you. Hey, Patrick, it's been a wonderful show today, buddy. Again,
it has. This was a good one.
It went by really fast, but we got to go. We're gonna run out of time, so we've got to go. But I want to say yet again, as always, follow us on Twitter at Podcast Kinda, at Lucha Chris TV, at Patriot Pat 17_1776. Also, our buddies at Banned from Ringside Podcast, at BFR Pod. We've got our buddy at Stardom, at Stardom. It's spelled a little funky, but we share it all the time. Go on our social medias and check it out. He just had some really awesome guests on his show here recently.
Yeah.
And if you need to, you can go back into the archives and watch our buddy Patrick and him discuss some funny things. And I'm gonna be on there one of these days when I can get my shit together. Yeah, and and then we've got our buddy Kevin, and we could shout out all day, but we don't have a lot of time. Hey, Patrick, send us out of here, buddy.
Okay, well, first off, I want to say, if you're an indie wrestler or you got an indie show around that you want us to promote, send us the information. We'll give it a shout out. Secondly, I want to give a shout out to B. Sheck. We missed him last week, and he was on a 3-show streak, so we're going to start that streak over again. MD Punk, fuck you, dog. I think that's about everything. And so, for Chris, for Patriot Pat, for the Luch man over there, yeah, this is Sideways in Time. We'll see you next week. Like, share, subscribe, promote the fuck out of us, and don't forget, folks, mark the fuck out.
Also, remember an extra shirt, because you'll sweat all over it. Anyways, and if you want to understand where that joke comes from, just watch us on YouTube at Sideways in Time Network. Hey, everybody, thanks for watching, thanks for listening, and we will see you